Hi, Nate.
Hi,
Well, thanks for doing this with me.
you're welcome.
Yeah. So, thank you so much for watching this. We are sending this out to caregivers because caregivers do need a break. In the past, I have had a burnout. I was a single mom for a period of my time, and this young man was going through a lot of medical issues, brain surgeries. It was very difficult, and I had to keep a job. As a result, I ended up having a burnout. And when you have a burnout, you also carry a lot of guilt because you're not doing your best. Um, and so you're trying to survive, and you're also trying to survive for your loved one, and you're not managing because a human being can only do so much. So this last weekend, I had to go to a women's retreat. It's the first time that I have been away since my father joined our family in January this year. And December of 2023, last year, my mom went to be with the Lord. And she was living with my dad for 62 years. During dad's recent years, he has become more forgetful. He moved to us in January after my mom passed away. So, my kids, my husband, our family, everyone has stepped in, and it has been a beautiful thing. We have learned a lot as a family and working as a team. It's been beautiful. But I have not been away. So, this last weekend, I went to a women's retreat, and it was my husband and my son Nate and my daughter Sally and mom, my mother-in-law, was here with them. So it was a beautiful family, and they did it without me. So it was okay. So since Dad came over, as I said, everybody has really been trying to help, but Nate has taken such a primary role in helping his grandfather. So they have a very close relationship. Nate makes sure his bed is made, his beddings are washed, his clothes are put away. At night, he prepares his room for him. So Nate has really stepped up and been like pretty much a very key person to Papa's needs. So this weekend I was gone, and Sunday I understand they were running late for church, and so you had to go wake Papa up. What did you do?
Yeah, so I went downstairs. I knocked on his door, Grandpa, Grandpa, and all of a sudden I hear him talking in Khmer, which I don't understand.
Yeah.
And then I also hear him laughing. So I just thought maybe he was sleep talking. So I went back upstairs and
Guys were running late
yeah, so we were running late, so
for church.
for church, and so while Grandpa was upstairs eating breakfast,
Yeah.
um, I went down and picked out some clothes for him to wear. I set them on the bed, and then when Grandpa was
How
done,
did you arrange his clothes?
I set his pants with the belt on the right side of the bed, and then his tops, like the shirt and jacket and stuff, on the left side of the bed, so that like they're in order. And so I did that.
Yeah.
hmm
And then
And then
you are running late,
yeah, we were running late.
and sometimes when we leave him to get dressed,
He,
sometimes he'll do other things and
yeah,
he'll forget and come back.
yeah, and take a long
So
time to
yeah.
yeah. So helped Grandpa. I was there the whole time in his room while he was changing.
And you are there,
Mm-hmm.
and when you asked him, Grandpa, give me that shirt. Okay, wear this one. And you did the same with the jacket. How are you feeling when you are going through that process?
I felt good. It was a really good experience
Yeah.
to do that for him.
Were you nervous that he might refuse or something at first?
Yeah, at first,
Yeah.
because well, of course, we don't understand each other in some ways
Khmer.
because he speaks Khmer and I
Sometimes.
don't. So
But were you panicking? Like, Grandpa, give me your shirt. Were you panicking, or were you just feeling comfy and just like, oh, it's gonna be fine?
I was.
You were calm.
I was mostly calm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and what I would say in the benefits of training your children and training their family, what the cares are like, is because of like what this weekend I was gone for pretty much 3 days, and I was very peaceful where I was because I knew that they got it. When Papa moved in, I've worked in healthcare for the last 28, pretty much almost 28 years of my 28 years in America. And then I went to school and I became a clinical chaplain. So then for like 18 years, I was a clinical chaplain. And so I have worked in healthcare, and I understand a lot about caring, especially for the elderly and people in their dying process. So when Papa moved in, the first thing I did right away was to train my family along. This is how you do this. This is how you communicate. This is how you help Papa, because he can do, pretty much a lot by himself, but he needs some reminders. He sometimes with confusion. So this weekend, I was able to go and be with other women and just completely relax and soak in the presence of God, because I knew that my family could do it. So he was there and helped him. And looking back, what would you say to someone that would struggle with how to care for their loved one?
Just to stay calm and not have an attitude in front of the person you're trying to help, because that will also get them to get that attitude back at you.
Wow.
So you
Wow.
don't want to do that. We have to be calm, and if you get frustrated or saying like this person is being stubborn right now, just go somewhere else and walk for a while maybe, and just calm down a bit.
Yeah.
And then you can come back and start over and try to help whoever you're helping.
I want you to know that we did not rehearse before doing this video. So I am so proud of Nate, and it's been amazing to see the growth in Nate and also in my daughter at their young age, and how they handled this so well while I was away. So thank you so much for being there. That gave me permission to go and rest. And I can tell you today is Monday, and I am rested. I feel good. I feel full of energy, and just also so grateful to see how we can learn. And the other thing too is, I just want to encourage families. It's not that difficult to care for your loved one if you do it as a team. So I encourage you, just doing it as a team. Also, caregivers, don't do everything. My mom always would tell me, like when I was, when my kids were younger, and I was telling her, oh, I'm doing this and that, and my mom would say, McKenna, don't do everything by yourself. Ask for help. Now, she wasn't very good at asking for help, but she gave me some really valuable advice. Ask for help. Also, train your children, let them help you. And this has been a very enriching experience to see my kids grow into this. Also, the other thing is okay, here is the thing. It makes me sad to see how the culture has shifted, and situation is different. So I don't know what situation your situation is, but my observation is, so when our elderly parents get to a place where they are not able to do things for themselves, and they move into a nursing home, and so the family calls the nursing home and says, we are coming to see dad or grandpa. Can you please dress him in his best outfit, whatever? I'm bringing my kids. And so the children come and they visit with their grandparents. Their grandparents are at their best. So the children don't get to see what their grandparents are going through on a regular basis. They don't get to see their grandparents, for example, lose control of urinating on their own, or things like that. They don't get to see that side of the elderly as the elderly get older and they lose some of the function, because when the family comes to visit with their children, their grandparents are dressed, they look nice, they look neat, and so the kids have this illusion in their mind that the grandparents are always functional and in their best state until they are dying. And so then what happens is, actually people are growing up as adults without realizing that age has its own difficulties. And so what I've observed in my years as a chaplain is where family members are saying, I can't handle seeing my mom like that. You know why? As children, they never saw their grandparents go through that. They don't have experience that people age, and as people age, they lose function. And age comes naturally like that for most people, actually for everybody, because by the time a person is going through a dying process, even a person who has lived a very, very healthy life, if they don't go through a quick stroke or heart attack, they will go through a season of losing function. So it's important to introduce our children to age, to sickness, to the reality of the vulnerability of humanity. Today we are functional, tomorrow things change, and it's important to expose our little ones to that as they are growing up. Let them be familiar with the changes that happen with the elderly as they are getting older and losing function. One of the things that happened last year as my mom was in the dying process, I was talking with you and Sally. Dad also is a chaplain. So my husband is a clinical chaplain. And so we were talking about that dying process as my mom was going through it. And we went to Kenya, and you saw our family caring for him together. So we didn't hide anything from you, right? You got to see all of how my mom, the things that she went through, some of the suffering, the changes. How did that impact you?
Well, it was, for one thing, emotional. It was sad.
It was emotional.
Sad. To see how your grandparents are aging like that and decreasing. But also, in a way, it was refreshing and good to experience that because, well, seeing that there's a lot of people out there that are supporting your grandparents and knowing what's happening and just being there, talking with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
It goes both ways, yeah. So there's sadness that come with it, and the reality. How was it to talk with your grandma during those last summer? I had talked with you and Sally, and you knew that she was in her dying process, and I saw both you and Sally taking that very, very seriously, and having very intentional communication with your grandmother. You are telling her you love her. You are going for hugs from her all the time, going for hugs, and just I mean, you really were intentional. Both you and Sally were so intentional, and I watched you being there, loving on her. How did that feel? And when you look back, how did that help you cope with her death?
When it was that time, it was sad, but also knowing that she's going to be with God, that was what gave me peace.
Yeah.
Knowing that she was going to be with God, and even though we might not be able to see each other until when Christ comes, we know that she's going to be there.
Yeah.
And looking back from now, just makes me think of all of the other families out there that are dealing with the same thing.
Yeah.
Hoping that they would have the same experience that I had, that Sally had.
Yes.
It's sad to have those visions in your mind of when your grandparents die, and but in a way, you know that you know where they are, and you know where you're going as well. So
and you are able to say your goodbyes, to love her, and to hear her tell you over and over, "I love you." Remember how she was reaching out and holding your hands, and just looking in your eyes and saying, "I love you."
Yeah, it was always nice, like when we go and it's bedtime, I go with Sally to go give her a hug. It was nice to do that because we know that the time was coming closer, and we were taking, like you said, we took that very seriously. Knowing Grandma's going to die, and that we won't be able to see her again. So
did that help you feel more peaceful, that you can look back and know that you are there and you did your best?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we will continue these conversations. Otherwise, do have a very blessed day for today.